Alright, you're welcome to this class. We're talking about the topic ratio. Very interesting topic. And we have lesson objectives. We're going to be covering in this class. Lesson objective. So there are some things that we will cover into this class. Some like we'll see, we'll be able to define what ratio is. We'll be able to define what ratio is, and also we will be able to express quantities as ratio. We'll be able to express quantities as ratios. All right, we have to express quantities as ratios, and then we'll be able to simplify ratios to their lowest terms. Able to simplify ratios to their lowest terms. And another one, we will be able to divide quantities in a given ratios. We're able to divide quantities in a given ratio. Yes, we'll be able to do this. And also, we will be able to solve some word problems. Solve some word problems involving ratio. All right, yes, involving ratio. Okay, so the majority of all these things that we are going to do, we'll be working with past questions. There are some past question examples that we'll be treating that will help us to cover this objective. So let's take the first one. What is ratio? What is ratio? So let's take what is ratio. What is ratio? Okay. The simplest definition about ratio is that a ratio is a comparison. Okay, let's have it down. A ratio is a comparison. Is a comparison of two or more quantities. Two or more quantities of the same kind, and we do that by division. Okay. Ratio is a comparison of two or more quantities of the same kind by division. So this is something that we need to know about ratio. When we proceed, we get to understand more. Ratios can be written in three ways. Three ways of writing ratios. We can use sign. First way, we can use sign, and that sign, this is the sign. I can use the is to. Yes, we can use sign. The next one is that we can use word, like majority, like in word problem, we can use word, and the word that we use is always two. You can spell it out as two. And another one is that we can use fraction form. We can use fraction. You can use fraction form. Okay, now if you want to compare two numbers, because we say quantities, we want to compare two quantities that are in numbers, we can use, and that number is 3 and 5. So we can compare these two numbers by writing it out as 3 is to 5. As 3 is to 5. In this case, we have made use, we've been able to make use of the sign, the sign symbol for ratio 3 to 5. This is one of the ways of writing ratios, and we can also have the second way of writing ratios using word, and that can be, you can say 3 is to 5. 3 is to 5. You can spell it out. It can be in another word form during word problem, as you're going to be seeing in some examples. And the fraction form, you can have it as 3 all over 5. These three ways are the same thing. All of them means the same thing. You can write it 3 is to 5. It can be spelled out in word like 3 is to 5. It can be written as fraction form 3 all over 5. Now the first number here in ratio, the first number here is always the numerator. The first number is always the numerator, and then the last number becomes, like in this case, this 5 here, this last number will always become the denominator. All right, so the first term given will be numerator, the last term will be denominator when they are in two forms like this. And sometimes ratios can even be more than, can be in 3 parts. It's not necessarily that it must be in 2 parts. So we have types of ratio. Let's take this let's just types of ratios. Okay, so we have types of ratios. We have what we call the simple ratio. That's the first one. The second one is what we call the compound ratio. We have the compound ratio. Okay, simple ratio, the compound ratio. Oftentimes, like the one we just gave as example, simple, oh, this is not ration, writing ration here, this is ratio. Let's take that out. So oftentimes simple ratio is just a comparison between two quantities. Could be like 5 is to 8. It can be like 5 is to 8. It can be 1 is to 2, etc. Just when it has to do with two quantities, that is what we call simple ratio. Now compound ratio will have to do with by obtaining it by multiplication. It's always obtained by multiplication of 2 or more ratios together. This has to do with 2 or more ratios. Okay, and you can multiply it. You can multiply 2 or more ratios together. For instance, we can have 2 is to 3 and 4 is to 5. Yes, so in this case, what simply happens is multiplication. We multiply these two ratios out. We are going to be seeing some of them in example. So in this introduction, it was just for us to know what ratio is. That ratio is the comparison of 2 or more quantities of the same kind by division. Mainly we compare it by dividing, and we've seen the ways of writing ratios. We can use a sign, we can use word, we can use fraction, and types of ratio: simple ratio, compound ratio. Before we close this class, let us see importance of ratio. Why ratio? Why do we solve for ratio? Why do we teach ratio in mathematics? But let us see the importance of ratio. Ratio is very important in commercial mathematics because ratio is a part of commercial mathematics. So the first thing we could say is that ratio is useful in sharing of money and profit. Sharing of money and profit when people are doing business, we know how they can share the money, the profit gotten from the business. So it's always very, very useful. Ratio is important for business, very important for business and trade. Okay, so it is important for business and trade. Let us see another importance of ratio. Another importance is important when it comes to mixing of substance, like in our chemistry practical, in the lab, and anything that has to do with mixing of different substances. Even in construction, like when we are mixing cement with sharp sand to have mortar or concrete, there are ratios. You have the ratio of 1:2:4, and then different mixture, different ratio that we could use. Okay, so anything that has to do with mixing of substances, ratio is always very important. And ratio is important for scale drawing and maps, like in your geography, scale drawing and map. Yes, when you are reducing or enlarging a map, there is always a scale to use, and it is in a ratio form. It is always in a ratio form. All right, so another one is, let's have this other one. Ratio is useful in comparing quantities. It's useful in comparing quantities. Yes, when we are comparing two things together, three things together, we use ratio, and that was even a part of our divination. So while we study ratio, it helps us in sharing of money and profit in business. It helps us in our business trade. When we are mixing substances, ratio is helpful for scale drawing and map, comparing quantities, and other importance of ratio. So we'll be taking some examples. And we're dealing with past questions, WAEC, NECO, that will help us understand ratio better and prepare us for exams. So I'll see you in the next class. Bye-bye.